Hi, Maria here. Today we are going to go through FICA refund training. So thank you for joining us. All right, the first thing is a review on what FICA taxes are, then what the process is going to be, and then we're going to do a demonstration and practice. So as a reminder, Social Security and Medicare taxes are collectively called FICA taxes. Social Security is a government pension and Medicare is government medical insurance. If you are an employee, it's paid half out of your paycheck and then your employer also pays half of it for you. If you are self-employed, if you work for yourself, you have your own business, then you are going to pay all of that when you pay your taxes. There are some exceptions for who has to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes. And the big one that we're going to talk about today is that non-resident aliens holding F1, J1, M1, and Q1 visas are exempt from Social Security and Medicare taxes. And self-employment is also exempt as well, so you don't have to pay the double tax. If this tax gets withheld by mistake or in error, then you can file Forms 843 and 8316 to get a refund. Sometimes employers just don't understand the rules, and sometimes students don't tell their employers that they are on an F or J visa to be exempt from those taxes. Now, IRS Publication 519, Chapter 8 has lots of details about this, including the refund procedures, but what we're going to go through today is the kind of accepted version of that, accepted version. So, who does have to pay FICA taxes? So, generally, once those F1, J1s, etc., become a resident alien, they will have to pay FICA taxes. There is another exception, a student exception, so while they're still working on campus, for example, they still might not have to pay them. But generally, if they're working at an internship and they've been here long enough or on OPT, then they are going to have to pay taxes once they become a resident alien. And that same thing applies for the J1 non-students. They would become a resident alien much sooner, just the 2 out of 6 years rather than the 5-year exception, and they will also have to pay them. Individuals who are here on -2 visas, so usually this is going to be a J2 visa, a dependent visa, even if they're a non-resident alien, they will still have to pay FICA taxes. If you have a different type of a visa, such as an H-1B visa, you will also have to pay those taxes, even if you are a non-resident alien. And then finally, if you are a non-resident alien and say you're on an F1 visa, but you earn income in violation of your immigrant status, you must pay employment tax. So if you are not authorized for employment, but you still have employment income, you would have to pay those FICA taxes. The process starts by requesting a refund from the employer. And we really want the employer to do this because they can do it so much faster. Usually they can do it in 1 to 2 months. So like 1 or 2 pay periods is often the time that it will take. The employer also gets a refund of their amount. So it is to the benefit for them to get that refund back, but it is not required. They are not forced to do that. So we have to ask nicely, try to encourage them to do that. And then we also need to document if they don't do it. And if they don't, it's, not the end of the world. We would rather they did, but if they don't, that's fine. We just need something that says they didn't do it. They wouldn't do it. If I'm working with a student and we are requesting a refund from the employers, this is a sample of a letter that I will send, basically saying, hey, we're writing to you. This is who we are. Please give us this money back. This is the way that the IRS prefers to handle it because then it goes through all of the standard processes and it reduces the amount of work they have to do. Again, not required, but we try to encourage them to do it. So if they won't do it though, that's when you get involved because then we're going to need to complete these additional forms and send in a long list of extra information to the IRS. It will generally take between 12 to 18 months. So it takes a very long time, much longer than the 1 to 2 months. We're talking 1 to 2 years. It's not going to get direct deposited. It will be sent as a check. And then we need a mailing address. It's going to be good for 1.5 years because, right, they're not going to send that money for a very long time. It also goes through a very different process than the IRS for a typical refund. And that means that there is not any information in the general IRS systems on the status of the refund request. So you can't really call and check where things are at. So it works, but it's very long and not really ideal. This is a list of the additional information that has to get sent with the Form 843. This is just a copy from the publication 519, but basically visa, passport, travel history, I-20 or DS-2019, and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of stuff that has to get sent in. So our process. First off, it starts when a student contacts us to tell us that they have had FICA taxes withheld. We'll send a request to the employer for the refund. Either the students will do it directly or I can do it if they haven't done it already and they give me a contact information. Generally, if it's for the school that they are a part of, the student is a part of, usually they are really good about doing refunds. And often we find that there's a paperwork issue, that maybe the student hasn't updated their original travel history or like a prior visa at the school if the school did it wrong. For other employers, we're like 50-50. Sometimes they give a refund, sometimes they don't. It is what it is. If the employer does give that refund, then we don't have to do anything, right? They're going to get the money back. It's all good. We're set. But if they don't give us the refund, then what will happen is the student is going to create a shared drive, like Google Drive or whatever they prefer. And they're going to put a copy of their W-2 and their tax return on it. And that's going to confirm that their tax was withheld, what their visa is, that they're a non-resident alien, all of that information. We will then, you as the volunteer are going to prepare the forms 843 and 8316 and save them in that folder. TaxSlayer does not have these forms in the software, so we have to do this manually using PDF forms. And these are going to be fillable forms. I'm going to strongly suggest that you use Adobe Acrobat Reader as your app to create the forms or to update the forms. You can try using other PDF reader software, but sometimes we have issues with it properly entering information in the correct blank. So we know Adobe Acrobat Reader works, so that's what I recommend. Once you have done that, then I am going to do a quality review of the forms. All right, we're using the traditional model of tax preparation rather than the FSA model, facilitated self-assistance model. So what one person does, a second person must review. So you're going to do, I'm going to review. After I've done that, I'll put the filing instructions and the list of documents that are required in the folder. And then it'll be up to the student. They're going to print everything out, sign it and date it, and send it in to the IRS. And we're going to strongly encourage them to use like USPS priority mail or something like that, because that will give them the proof of delivery to the IRS, right? If we're going to be waiting a year and a half for the refund, we really, really, really want to know that, right, that the IRS did actually get those forms and they've not just completely gone into, well, they kind of have gone into a black hole, but we at least know that we delivered them to the black hole before they disappeared. All right, if you have any questions on this process, please just send me an email. I will be very happy to answer any questions that you have. Okay, so let's take a look at the forms themselves. So this is the form 8316. Yes, the January 2026 or 2006 form is the most recent version of it. This is a special form just for the FJM visa types, basically information for requesting a refund of tax withheld in error. So when we fill this one out, we are always going to say, yes, this is directly related to the course of studies, right? Because that means it's in compliance with their visa requirements and they're eligible for that exemption. If it is not, then they have to pay taxes on it. Items number 1, 3, and 7 are going to be a no, right? They didn't pay you back for those taxes. We haven't authorized the employer to claim any of that amount back, and they have not claimed any of that amount on their federal income tax. For 5, we usually say we don't know, right? Has your employer claimed any part of it? We don't know, right? We don't know what the employer has done. That's why we're going to say we don't know. Probably it's a no, but we don't really know. And then the line below, line 5, we're always going to include a letter. We're going to say, if you can't get a statement, please tell us why. We're going to still say something in there. So like here's kind of the typical thing, per included letter, which is like the employer's response to the request for the refund. Employer acknowledges that they're eligible for a refund, but refuses to provide it because of blah. Or we would just say whatever it is the letter says, right? The employer doesn't acknowledge that the employee is eligible for a refund and won't give any money back, or whatever that is, whatever the situation is. All right, so 843, so that's 8316, so pretty straightforward. So 843 is a little bit more complicated. Again, these forms are not updated very often. The 2011 version is the correct version, the most recent version. The instructions are more recent. It's 2021 instructions if you want them, but the 2011 version of the form is, at least right now, the current one. All right, so as we look at this, we're going to start with your name or the student's name, address, and city, state, and zip. We're going to put their social security number. There's going to be no spouse's social security number because they're not filing a joint return. There's going to be no employer identification number, right? Because this is an individual filing this, not a business. If they had a different tax return address than what they want to use on this form, then we should put the original tax return address there. Again, remember, we're asking for an address that's going to be good for 1.5 years. Yes, it can be an address in a foreign country, but right, we know that there can be challenges getting mail everywhere around the world. So a US address is better if there is one. And then daytime telephone number so that they could call. I've never heard of anybody getting called, but they could call. That would be fine. The period is going to be for the tax year. So like January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. We're going to fill out one of each of these forms for every tax year that's involved and a separate form for every employer if it happened to be that the student had more than one employer that took this tax out. And then the amount to be refunded or abated, that's going to be the total tax amount that was withheld in FICA, so Social Security plus Medicare taxes. For number 3, really important, this is an employment tax. It is not an income tax, so we're going to check employment tax. 4 and 5 are going to be blank. There's no penalty, there's no interest or penalties, etc. Those are going to be blank. Number 6, the original return is a 941 return. So kind of here in the middle, it's a 941. And then explanation, I've got an explanation again here. So I am a non-resident alien temporarily present in the US on an F1 or J1 or whatever visa. FICA taxes were mistakenly withheld and my employer won't provide a refund. Social Security of X, Medicare of Y were withheld for a total of Z as shown on my W-2. And then finally, oops, we're gonna put our site ID number down here in this P10 box. That's S392-021. That just lets the IRS know what VITA site helped them with this. Otherwise, the paid preparer is all entirely blank. We're not going to help with that at all. They're going to sign right here, signature and date when they're ready to send it in. All right. Okay. So let's go through an example. So if you guys probably remember Sunil from our training, student from India, worked and had an internship over the summer. So we're going to imagine that he had Social Security and Medicare taxes withheld from his paycheck while he worked at Cray. He asked them for a refund and they did not give it to us, so he needs to do the forms. Again, a reminder, 12 to 18 months, so we want to use an address that's going to work for at least that long. And here's our quote from the employer, hypothetical quote, of course not a real one. We can't provide FICA refund because our accounting period is closed and we can't make adjustments. All right, so his W-2. So here's his one from the U of M. Obviously, they did a good job. We're not going to have to worry about that. And here is the updated one for working at Cray. And you can see Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of money, right? The Social Security and Medicare taxes add up to be quite a bit of money. Here he's got almost $2,100, a little over $2,100 with help. So let's do some forms for Sunil. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to put this to the side so we can see that. And then I am going to get the forms over here. All right. So Form 8316, we're going to start with that one first. Was the income related to his studies? Yes, it was. Has your employer paid you any money back? No. You authorized your employer to claim any money? No, we didn't give them permission to do it. If the employer does say that they will do it, often the student will have to sign something authorizing the employer to claim the refund, which is totally fine. Has the employer claimed a credit? We don't know. All right, let's go back to here. Let's go back to here. Right. We're going to say, all right, per included letter, employer refuses to provide a refund because the accounting period is closed. Accounting period is closed because their accounting period is closed. There we go. We have not claimed the refund. Name and address of the employer. All right, so Cray Inc. 2131 Dow Lane 100 income 75525. So I'm just using the information from the W-2. That's completely good to use. All right, so they will sign, they will date, phone number, it's going to be whatever the student's phone number is, 651, I'll use a general number. And then whatever dates or time, like days of the week or times are convenient to call. So we're going to just say Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But whatever the student says, right? If they want different hours, they can put different days or hours. And that's all there is to it, right? Super simple, very straightforward, kind of what the form is. All right, so let's go now to the 80.43, which is a little bit more complicated. Okay, so again, so it is going to be Sunil Gosain, social security number, address. He is still at this address. He says he's going to be there forever because he's going to grad school. He's not going to move. It's going to be perfect. Hopefully it will be perfect for him. 55455. All right. And this is the same address as on his tax return, so that's not going to be a problem. The same phone number from the previous form. All right, so January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023. And we're going to use the full year. Even if he only worked for them for like the summertime, we're still going to use the full year because it's for the tax period. All right. Oh, and then we're going to do the total amount. So 1736 plus 406 is going to be 2142.00. All right. Then it's an employment tax. It was originally on a 941. We're going to go copy here. All right, I am a non-resident alien. Okay, Social Security taxes of $406. And oops, wrong way. 1736. And Medicare taxes of 0 were withheld for a total of $21.42 as shown on included W-2. There we go. And then we're going to go down here, S392.21. And there we are. That is, I believe, let's just check, name, address, yes, employment, 941, non-resident, there we go. Okay, that all looks perfect. So that is filling out his Sunil's forms. Okay, so moving on. Now it is going to be your turn. So in our Moodle course, we have an assignment to do a sample forms for Aiden. You're going to fill out his forms and then submit the assignment. If you make lots of mistakes, I might have you do another one, but it's pretty straightforward, and you've got the blank forms and the sample forms as well from this example in there, so you have a good set of like templates for you to use. And then once you've done that, you're ready to help a client. So in terms of like where we are on that, so I'm reaching back out to all of the people who had originally reached out to us. So identifying who is going to be eligible and whose employers will not provide it. All right. Once somebody is identified and once they have all of their documents ready, I will send an introduction email that includes them and me and you, so everybody knows who all is involved. And then that student is going to add you to the access permissions for that shared folder so that you can get access to their documents and then fill out the forms and upload those forms onto the file. This whole process is generally relatively slow, right? I reach out to the students, they respond as quickly or not. They reach out to their employers, they respond as quickly or not. So we end up with lots of people at various places. So it's not like I'm going to say, hey, here's 5 returns, go do them. It's going to be a question of waiting to say, okay, finally we have one. Okay, you get that as a volunteer. Okay, we have the next one, the next volunteer gets one. So it might take a little while before you hear back to me. But the one thing I will say is that generally when I reach out to you, we've finally gotten everything all organized, right? We know the response on the employer, the students got their documents organized. So if you can kind of get through everything in 3 to 5 days, that would be really great. And again, so you are going to, you'll get the email from me, you'll have access to the folder, you'll review the documents, prepare forms 8316 and 843, and then send me an email to let me know that they are ready. And then I can review, and then off we go. All right. And again, thank you very much for your willingness to help the students with their FICA tax refunds. These are usually some pretty good dollar-sized refunds, and this is not something that all VITA sites can do, so thank you very much for your help. And again, if you have any questions, please just send me an email, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Have a great day.